Now, this leasing of the Port of Darwin, a lot of people would see it basically as the same as a sale. It's a 99-year lease. It's raised a lot of eyebrows across the country, particularly as far as the question of national security is concerned. The federal member for Kennedy, Bob Katter, has walked out of question time in disgust following the response by the Minister for Northern Australia, Josh Frydenberg, who's a Melbourner, on the sale of that Port of Darwin, if you like, to a Chinese corporation. Now, the Northern Territory Chief Minister has announced this sale last week, which involves a 99-year lease. People simply see that as a sale these days, as we saw in this state election recently. Look, I've got Bob Katter on the line to talk about this and the level of disgust that he's been reported as expressing yesterday on this Chinese purchase of the Port of Darwin. When you think about it, it really is hard to believe that could have taken place, but it has. Bob, good morning.
God bless all the listeners, John.
Bob, I think when people hear that this Port of Darwin's been sold, even though it's a 99-year lease, it's seen as a sale to Chinese interests, I think a lot of people are shaking their heads. Talk to me about the fact that you've been reported to have walked out in disgust yesterday. What level of disgust?
Well, I mean, in 41 years of being a member of Parliament, there's only one bloke outranks me in time in Parliament. That is the first time I've walked out. But I mean, to hear that Member of Parliament, he lives in Melbourne, he's a Melbourne Member of Parliament, but to hear the drivel about free trade and free markets, I mean, John, let me just say this, because they say, oh, now it's privatised, it'll be wonderful. Well, we privatised the electricity industry in Queensland effectively, and the prices went up 400% in 10 years. Now, you think that if this person's got a monopoly on all trade going out, for 1/3 of the entire continent of Australia, all of our live cattle go out through Darwin. I mean, some go out through Townsville, but it's a fair call to say all of them go through Darwin. For example, that's from Queensland, North Queensland. So they can charge whatever they like. They have a monopoly. And you say, oh, well, yeah, not necessarily so. Well, I mean, what do? I go through Darwin. What's the alternative? Well, the alternative is to build another port for $500 million. I mean, these people bought this for, less than the cost of construction. But this, now we have a toll, and the corporation that is there is not as a service mechanism for the people. It is a profit-making enterprise with a private entity that owns it. But John, one little tiny good aspect to this is half of the entire coastline of Australia now has no serviced port. From Townsville to Port Hedland, there is no serviced port. So, at least put Cairns in there as a registered port. At least put us in there as a registered port and develop us as a port. Short-term, the dredging, they're absolutely outrageous. They don't want to even think of stopping the dredging,
yes.
Firstly. And secondly, please, let us not think small. We're North Queenslanders. Think big. We want that tunnel through the range. Brisbane's got 21 kilometres of tunnels. But we got the same population as Brisbane. Where's our tunnels? They get 200 overpasses. We get 7. We get the same population in North Queensland as Brisbane. But jumping back to this, as I say, a third of the continent of Australia, all production, whether it's cattle or whether it's whatever, widgets or whatever, now has to go through a toll. The toll can be set under the free trade deal with China at whatever level they feel like setting it at. They can bring all their own workers in to man all of the work there at that port. If it was to expand, they could expand it with their own workers. And I can't see why they would pay $70,000 to an Australian worker now that the federal government's allowed them to bring their workers in from China, where they're paid the average wage is $5,000.
Bob, I want to take you to another matter you just touched on a moment ago, and this is the future of our dredging project here. I've had discussions with certainly one of your two Queensland representatives, the Macca Australian Party, and that's your son, Robbie. He has intimated to me with considering discussions with not only Shane Knuth, but also with the member for Cook, Billy Gordon. He believes the three of them will be able to roll this state government, this dreadful state government prescriptive legislation, the Sustainable Ports Development Bill, which is actually due for mention on the floor of Parliament in Brisbane next week. Talk to me about that. The Macca Australian Party is standing with the people of Cairns on this?
Yeah, they've already had a press conference on this, John, and I think sometimes they let themselves down, with their media machine. They get so much coming at them. Canudi and the younger Katter, if you like, they get so much coming at them, they just can't. But they took a very immediate position, and a lot of people thought, I didn't even know they'd done it. On the registered port status side, that Cairns has to be a port. But if you look at the water development, John, it's not central North Queensland that's got the water. It's far North Queensland that's got the water. Now, we got to get it out. Corumba has to be developed as a light cattle port on this side of the peninsula. Cairns has to be developed as a proper port. And the first stage there is dredging. I mean, it is inconceivable. And there's one other aspect to this, John. At all times when we were the government of Queensland, in the good old days, up till the Country Party government fell in 1990, up till then, we used dredge material to do reclamation work. Now, in Brisbane, they're doing that as we talk. So they can dredge in Brisbane and reclaim and create new land. They can do it in Townsville, but we're not allowed to do it in Cairns. Well, I am sick of being treated as a second-class citizen because I'm a far North Queenslander. And there has to be a reckoning here. There has to be a reckoning. And we have got to call upon decent people like Robbie Pine to stand up on these issues. They must stand up on these issues. I mean, after all, Curtis Pitt, part of his electorate is Cairns. He's number 3 in the government, arguably number 2.
I've got to tell you, Robert Pine, I've got to say to you, Robert Pine is implacably opposed to the dredging project.
Well, I am deeply disappointed in Robert, and that would not be the position, with all due respects to him, taken by his father. I mean, Tom was very development-oriented. And they must understand that there are people that do not have jobs. We have some of the highest unemployment rates in Australia, in far North Queensland. I mean, you got a job on $200,000 a year. There's a person over there without any job, and he doesn't even get $20,000 a year. And you're saying he can't have a job because that dredging means jobs. But there'd be no question about it. Without that dredging, we cannot get the patrol boat operations, and I think we'll lose the defence operations.
Well, the question was, are you supportive of our dredging project? And I'll take the answer as a yes.
No, an emphatic, an aggressive and tenacious yes. No. I will be leading the charge. If we're having demonstrations there, for the dredging, I will be out there holding my Australian or Eureka flag, whatever it might be. I can assure you of that, Sean. No. That dredging is absolutely critical. If we are to be one of the tourist meccas of the world, then we have to have that dredging. Right? Now, I plead with people to realise that there's a bigger game out there. We get the dredging first, and then we move on. But if we don't get the dredging, we've got no hope of getting any deep water port. Now, there'll only be 3 deep water ports, really, between Newcastle and tip of Cape York. And I am determined that we be one of them. But in the meantime, I mean, we'll be no port at all unless we get that dredging. And I mean, you go from a position, well, no, let's just compare it to Brisbane. Why aren't the Greenies complaining about the dredging in Brisbane? Why aren't they complaining about the dredging in Gladstone?
Yes.
Why aren't they complaining about the dredging in Mackay? Why are we being kicked as a soft target?
Precisely.
Well, I'm telling you that Canudi and Little Katter, they're both professional footballers in their day. They're very tough boys. And I can assure you, John, if they want to take me on, they will find out that they have mustered in a very rough paddock indeed over the issue of dredging.
This has been very interesting, Bob. I appreciate this discussion today. Thank you. Bob Katter is the member for Kennedy, the federal member, and of course he is the father of the Katter Australian Party. It's now on 20 minutes to 11. That talk number 1300 872 911.